Well, it's great to be back. 2 years to the day where we came to RIU and announced the Cortadera acquisition, something that I think I recounted last year, drew quite a lot of pause from the audience when we talked about the acquisition cost versus the market capitalisation of Hot Chili. But to be where we are now and sitting with a near 3 million tonne copper resource in the ground with close to 3 million ounces of gold is a testament to a team that has persisted for over 10 years now to build a very big vision. And I want to draw a sporting analogy that will bring you up to speed to today, to what we consider is the beginning of a gold medal event for Hot Chili. You know, Australians are very good athletes, very, very competitive, and we certainly compete very well on the world stage. But you know, there's just a couple of sports out there that the Australians don't really compete in very well. Big copper is a very similar analogy, and that sport is speed skating. So one of the true Australian heroes of our time, or certainly my time, was a guy by the name of Stephen Bradbury. And Stephen spent a good 12 years, you know, a youngster that became Australia's #1 speed skater in a very limited field. Unfunded, unloved, kept trying, kept crafting his sport. And eventually in 2002, he turned up at the Winter Games in Salt Lake City to take on the North Americans, masters of that sport. And surprisingly to all of the Australians, this guy just kept moving through heats. And he had one very simple strategy: keep on your feet and keep going. And he eventually made it to the actual gold medal event, the final. And wouldn't you know, most Australians that were at Salt Lake City that year didn't really turn up to the event. It was quite amazing that all of the heats beforehand had seen most of the skaters fall over and Stephen Bradbury end up in the top 2 of each of the heats. And amazingly, in the gold event, turning the corner, we see 2 Koreans, 2 North Americans fall before the line, and Stephen cruised through for a gold medal for Australia, first ever. A true hero in a sport that the Australians don't know a lot about, and that's was well put by a good friend of mine, Rick Rule, this morning. He said, "Well, Christian, there's not a lot of ice ponds in Australia to practice on." So hopefully that brings you up to speed through our 12-year journey to get here. A lot of luck and a lot of persistence has ended up with Hot Chili, outside of the control of a major mining company, holding the largest copper resource on the ASX, and having waited 8 years to see copper price at the level it is today. So I'll give you a quick update as to what's going to get very exciting for our company this year in a very, very exciting space which the Australian market has very little exposure to. The second largest copper metal market of the world, copper. So it's great to have the doctor back. Near 90%. Every time I do this slide, it keeps going up. I think we're at 385 this morning, and the city guys calling 10,000 a tonne. Very, very excited to see where the copper price is going and what that represents to a company like Hot Chili. Something really special happened 2 years ago. We took on a private discovery that just happened to be 14 kilometres away from a $100 million investment that we made on the coastline over in Chile. And what that has turned into over the past 2 years is one of the only major discoveries that the world has seen since Kamoa, and Robert Friedland brought that last major discovery in 2014. You know, we're in pretty good pedigree. Rio Tinto is the only other company that's made a major copper discovery in that time with Winu. So it was fantastic in October of last year to be able to match Rio Tinto's first resource estimate on Winu with a third of the drilling and with a much smaller team, obviously. So we now have a commanding resource base. We have a world-class discovery that we've only really just started drilling and and expanding. And I guess we were able to put out some of the world's best drilling results through 2019, challenged last year through COVID, and now looking to embark upon a very, very active year this year, having finished a $25 million institutional raising and putting 3 rigs on the ground to drill 1,000 to 2,000 metre holes. Being led by Steve Garwin, our team certainly is putting some very innovative approaches to seeing whether Cortadera now can lift into the Tier 1 category and become a legitimate titan of the copper sector. The share price has quadrupled in that time. It's just a shame that it hasn't done a 12 times such as our market cap, but when you're a company that has gone through an entire cycle, had a very, very good start, 8 years ago sitting at a 250 million market cap with 20% of our resource base, and certainly now the infrastructure put together, it certainly takes a bit to move hot chili and to break that inertia. We sit at about 120 million market cap. We're very well funded, and we have quite a lot of treasury coming in this year to support a $20 million very aggressive program on this discovery. And what this really is, the centrepiece, Cortadera is now the centrepiece of a major copper development on the Chilean coastline. Low altitude, compatible metallurgy, sitting in the middle of probably one of the richest infrastructure corridors on the Chilean coastline, and at low altitude. So we are benefited from just the location of where we are and all of this 10 years of activity to put this blueprint together. We just needed that trophy resource to push this forward. And we have it now. And believe me, this is a very much a starting resource, and I'm sure that we knew as a starting resource for Rio Tinto up in the Patterson. We see Cortadera growing quite significantly this year. We've only put 20,000 metres of drilling into it. That was on the back of a further 20,000 metres of historical drilling. But it's what we have discovered and what that is turning into, which is really exciting. So the concept for hot chili is one central mill, extracting multiple large-scale open pits out of our original Productora project and Cortadera, and also integrating some of our high-grade assets, which we'll be working on over the coming year or two. And that's really a blueprint for a 100,000 tonne per annum copper project and a 100,000 ounce per annum gold project. And in plain speak, that's a project that'll kick out revenues of around $800 million US to $1 billion US per year. And we're looking to position this as a 20 to 30 year project. These are very rare. And you start to understand how rare they are when you start to look at the top copper resources in the world. And you look at where they're placed. The red ones are the ASX. And this comes back to my analogy with speed skating. The Australian market doesn't play at this end. All of the big copper projects in the pipeline that are not controlled by a BHP or a Rio or a Newcrest or an Antofagasta Minerals are controlled really by the North Americans. You can see the grade distribution in yellow. That's the actual copper grade of these multi-commodity projects. And you can see that Costa Fuego, already at close to 750 million tonnes, is top 4 in grade, and certainly not very far to build until we're into an elite space as a Tier 1 developer, and certainly a top 5 or top 6 project. And that's our aim this year, to elevate that into that space. Already you start to run your price deck over gold and copper, and the mind starts to boggle when you get $30 billion in-ground values, and a junior talking about trying to build this to $50 billion US in-ground value. That's what we're playing with. And the important thing with this development pipeline is what the key attributes of Costa Fuego are. It is not a 3,000 or 4,000 metre altitude project. Knock 4 of those projects out to the left of us. It's not a project that has 300 ppm arsenic sitting in the metallurgy. Knock another 3 projects out to the left of us. It's not a stalled project. This is a new project that's been unlocked by a world-class discovery. So as I've started this presentation, it was 2 years ago to the day that we announced this very ambitious deal. About a week and a half ago, we made our second last payment on Cortadera. So that $32 million US acquisition has one payment left in about 18 months, and we'll own it 100%. So this year is a very big year for Hot Chili on the growth platform, and certainly we've really tooled up our team over in Chile in terms of drilling speed, assay turnaround, building up our development team in Perth, appointing a lot of talented management back into Hot Chili to drive this forward towards a major resource upgrade that will hopefully push us as the only Tier 1 developer outside of the control of a major on the Australian Stock Exchange. I think most people have seen our results. They littered the airwaves in 2019. 2020 was challenging. We only put out 300 and 400 metre intercepts, but this year we intend to be adding a few more to the top 25 drilling intercepts that the world has seen for the copper industry over the past 3 years. And what is really exciting us is the big picture that's unfolding with the geology and the footprint that we see here. We recognise a Tier 1 system. The discovery of Cortadera was something that was left open by a private explorer, and really our eyes really widened when we saw those drilling intercepts. And given the context that it was handed back to a large Chilean billionaire family by another Chilean billionaire when copper hit $2 a pound, and he didn't want to pay $20 million for the next option payment. An opportunity like this doesn't come around too often, where you're sitting with something like this 14 kilometres away from your main asset. So very quickly this has taken over as our key asset in what we're doing in Chile. So the geology footprint is really underpinned by surface molybdenum, by IP chargeability, but more importantly, it's really underpinned by quite a lot of diamond drilling now. And that model that is being built is being built and guided very much in the same frame as SolGold has guided the Cascabel project to become one of the legitimate monsters of the copper sector. And there's a lot to like about this project, and there's a lot to recognise in terms of what you're looking at here. This is a long section over 2.3 kilometres. This thing extends from surface. We made a breakthrough after announcing the deal about 4 months in, where we dropped a vertical hole into the main porphyry, Cuerpo 3, and we found a high-grade core. The rest is history, and that high-grade core is building out very, very rapidly. We already have 100 million tonne in that high-grade core, and that was based off 9 holes. We joke in Hot Chili that this looks like two twisties stuck together, the high-grade core. Some people in the team thinks it looks a little bit different, but it's a clean conference, so we'll talk about that at the booth. But the reason why the high-grade core looks the way it does at the moment is drill density. So this is a high-grade cylinder, like a donut that's plunging, and the gaps that are created are because we don't have drilling. And so when you're drilling things at 150 by 150 into these high-grade cores, you can appreciate that we need some more holes. And we're drilling them. Last year we focused, after this 450 million tonne resource came out, on expanding some of the open-ended lateral extents up dip, and that was certainly good. We need to still close this out laterally. But when you have 0.7 to 1% a copper equivalent bulk tonnes plunging like that, 500 metres of strike length, 400 metres of width. These are the type of ore columns that Steve Garwin has taught me about. These are the world-class things that you're looking for. These are the type 2 porphyries that are gold rich, that most of the majors have got their eyes on. And there are not too many of them in the world that are certainly in the hands of a junior. So we've got a couple of nice new intercepts that are coming to the market soon that certainly will hopefully see some good widths and have some very good high-grade intersections of a couple of 100 metres or more. So those are coming to the market. And a lot of people will, in the Australian market, say, but Christian, why do you want to bring this into really expensive drilling $500,000 holes, drilling 1,500, 1,800 metre holes? because sometimes you've got to follow the grade and you've got to follow the veining and you've got to follow the science on these porphyry systems. This is what led SolGold to the heart of Alpala, to their high-grade core, which underpins that 10 million tonne, 23 million ounce gold monster. So the heart of Alpala sat at about 600 metres to 1,300 metres. It's the subject of the block cave study, which the SolGold guys are going through. That is the depth range where Hot Chili is now moving to on Cuerpo 2 and 3, and God forbid the two largest porphyries of the three porphyries discovered actually join at depth and turn into a hand like SolGold. So when we talk about it in an Australian context, we can look at things like Cadia and say, well, how big is this? Let's just visually look at this thing. I think everyone can appreciate scale. And everyone can appreciate what the Newcrest guys have done at Cadia. They can also appreciate that you're looking at one of the largest gold production deposits in Australia. And you can also appreciate the type of grades that are taken out at those depths using bulk tonnage techniques such as block caving. The advantage that Hot Chili has is we have two very large open pits to fill out close to a 300 million tonne open pit inventory before we start talking about block caves below the pits. So it's a very exciting year for us. We're looking to hit some major milestones this year, not least of all moving from a pre-feasibility on Productora to finally a combined large-scale pre-feasibility on this entire development scenario that we call Costa Fuego. We're looking for several resource upgrades, and unsurprisingly, the company is making preparations to move to a North American dual listing, where obviously projects like this are gaining significant multiples above the valuations in the Australian sector. So thank you very much for your talk. Hopefully it was informative, and I'm certain that our exploration and resource development team and Steve will be at the booth to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you. Thank you,
Andy Beckwith joined De Grey Mining originally as a consultant before coming on as Technical Director and Operations Manager in November of 2017. Since then, he's played a significant role in the rebirth of the company. He's successfully worked on projects from grassroots to mine development and has extensive experience working